you ask me the truth and I'm laying on you. I think the chaos is wacky. I think the transfer portal with these kids bouncing around, the NIL, I have no problem with players getting cash and making money. I really don't. I have a problem with what exists with no basic rules, just wild. It's the wild, wild west. I personally believe that, you know, when it was a situation and we're talking about players getting money, I thought it was going to be scenarios where, if a player, for example, wanted to appear somewhere at a banquet and they wanted to pay him to speak or they wanted to pay him to do a commercial, fine. But I never in my wildest dreams ever thought you're seeing millions and millions of dollars being laid out to players on a collegiate level. You might as well say it what it is. It's professional. It really is of the elite power conferences. It's taken away. I was telling someone at lunch today, my golden years that I loved was back in the 80s and the 90s when the players were there 3, 4 years, when you had the battle with the Ewings, for example, the Big East in Georgetown, taking on Syracuse and Derek Coleman. And those games were so special. ACC, the big battles, Jordan and Sampson and all those guys, 3, 4 years. Now it's, what's the lineup? Who's back? Who's not back? I mean, I think the Duke team now, they lost 6 players, 5 to the NBA draft in the first or second round, and they got a whole new roster, basically, a new roster. They got a couple kids back. I mean, they got certainly Foster back and certainly Evans and a couple other guys, Harris. But really, the lineup changes, and it's got to be tough on coaches, really tough on coaches. I think the other thing tough on coaches, too, it's really difficult to be able to be totally in control in running your program because you look at a kid the wrong way. That kid is many times going to transfer and go elsewhere. And I've seen what it's done to big time coaches. They may not admit it, but I firmly believe that many of the coaches that have stepped down, even in football, the Nick Sabans, I think when you talk about Jane Wright, and you talk about Roy Williams and Coach K and all these coaches that have stepped away recently, Bruce Pearl, I think really in many cases, all the problems dealing with the NIL, dealing with transfers, I think has played a role in those decisions.